So that is the call for Mike Tirico and the Sunday night crew on the end of the Commanders game where the ball doinks off the upright and goes in and the Commanders win. Tirico was already calling it good before it hit the upright, and then he had to catch himself and go make it all exciting sounding. So Commanders win. That was one of the exciting games of this weekend. Super Wild Card weekend, although better than last year, still probably has a lot to be desired. But these are all teams that are better than ours that are still playing. So we are the three Angry Giant fans and a Jet fan. This is your host, Scott, Giant Mike, Cardone, and Angry Jets fan, Novak. And boys, I'm back in the country.
Yes.
But I have to say this. You guys filled in admirably. I almost wanted to come on today like with a beach shirt on and a couple of beers and just sit back and let you pepper questions at me and be one of the panel and let Novak run this because he did a great job and really it would have taken a burden off of me. I should have shown some flip flops, had a Mai Tai in my hand and just go at it.
Along for the ride.
I am happy carrying the clipboard, and I'll be called on when necessary. I'm like the backup quarterback that comes in 4 games and wins a couple and is just very average. Give it back to the leader when he gets back in.
Novak said that in the pregame part, and I was like thinking, maybe Hostetler or Nick Foles. He pulls out Don Strock.
Don Strock.
Don Strock is the greatest backup of all time.
Yeah, it's like Scott was away at fantasy camp, like Kramer, when he just disappeared for a week. Like, didn't know where the hell he was. Yep. By the way, if we can we just stay on the Commander? Was that the most excited you've heard Mike Tirico in your entire fucking life? What was that?
I don't know. You're right.
Was it just because it doinked off the upright, or was it was that the reason, or he was absolutely out of his mind that the Commanders are moving on to the divisional round? I couldn't understand his enthusiasm and fervor.
Jaden Daniels factor.
Yeah. There were a few bad calls in that game, and I know Novak texted at one point, the NFL really wants to see Jaden Daniels move on, and I got that kind of feeling. Not only that, but the whole game. Tirico was talking about Daniels and basically acting like Jaden Daniels was by far the best player on that field. Jaden Daniels is in total control of this game right now as they're winning by 3 points.
Yeah, the total control line. That was classic. Winning by 3 points. Neither team doing much of anything, but Jaden Daniels has him on cruise control here. And then, not even 3 game minutes, by the way, after he said that, the Tampa Bay took the lead. Mm-hmm. So, total control of losing this game.
That was the only game worth a damn this weekend. It was bad football all around. I'm sorry. It was terrible. And the game I thought was going to be the best was the worst, which is Minnesota and the Rams. Turned out to be the worst game of all of them. Sam Darnold, goodbye. Because he can kiss $100 million goodbye.
Yeah. He'd have been better off pulling up lame.
He looked like when he was with the Jets. That's the Darnold I know and love. That's him. That's a Jet right there.
You could go back to the Lion game, right? For with the one seat on the line, Darnold looked like just a frightened freshman out there. Didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
If you listen to the radio call for the Viking game, the guy goes, "Throw it, man!" Because he just kept getting sacked, he's just holding it.
That was incredible.
Those Vikings announcers, if you've ever heard anything else from them, they are insane. They're the biggest homers, which 100%. Every home team's announcers are, but those guys are bananas. They don't
hold back.
So we'll get into that in just a minute, but let me give a shout out. By the way, I enjoyed Novak's shout outs. He even called out Hawaii, which is one of the states that
down to one.
Was great. So this one's an interesting one because I looked for information on the one that actually has a listener, but I had to pick a town nearby, and then they're tied to each other. So, hello, Colesville, New York. Population 4,877. It's near where Mike grew up. It's in Broome County, and it was established in 1821 by Robert Harper. Now, the reason that comes into play is because the actual listener's from Harpersville, but there's no information out there about Harpersville. So Harpersville is near Colesville, and Harpersville is named for Robert Harper. Harper has been called the most distinguished pioneer in New York history because I guess he has something like 8 different towns named after him. in the state. So that town is named after him, but Colesville was named after Nathaniel Cole.
Not King Cole?
Nathaniel Cole.
Oh.
The regular Nathaniel Cole. He established a post office, I think. So, or voting.
Really?
A lot of these, that's a lot of, we hear a lot of people establish a post office. It's like how you got a town named after you back then. You put down the post office and then you're like, yeah, this is mine.
Yeah, but Newman taught us zip codes, they're meaningless. So what do we need them? What do we need post offices for? Let me tell you a little thing about zip codes. They're meaningless.
I always love when they go to the extra 4 digits of the zip code. Like, I have no idea what my 4-digit is.
Nah.
I just put mine in, and it's I don't know a dash after that. It's just like, it's good enough to know just in the general vicinity.
So yeah, Nathaniel Cole Park would be better known for people who live in where I'm from as Cole Park, which is a frequented place by people from Binghamton and surrounding areas. Cole Park in the summer. Yeah, it was a fun place. We all went to Cole Park.
You ever hear of Harpursville?
Yeah, I've heard of Harpursville. I like how you're saying it that way. H-U-R-P-U-R.
So I had to...
Harper. Yep.
I already was screwing up Oriskany or Oriskany. I already screwed that one up, and we've had that person come back and listen several times. So apparently we didn't fuck them up too much.
All right.
Welcome, Colesville.
Yeah.
So
on the way to Cole Park, you could stop at Gary's You Pull It and get stuff for your car. It's a junkyard.
Wait a minute. There's a place called You Pull It.
Gary's You Pull It was the name of the place.
It's a car place, or are we talking something else here?
It's a junkyard. As far as I know, it was only a junkyard. Yeah.
It's got us intrigued.
Yeah.
Look it up.
Yeah, like if you're, driving around back then, we're all driving our beaters, and like if you lose a fender or something, you go to Gary's, You Pull It, find a fender that'll fit your car, $10, you take it home and put it on.
So I did want to follow up, since I'm finally back in the saddle after 16 days away, which, by the way, is an awfully grueling amount of time to be gone. We ended up tallying all the we were in Germany and Italy, and we ended up tallying how much we walked while we were there. 114 miles.
Wow.
Jesus.
Over that entire time. So,
and then you came back and played poker the next night. So what? You've got a problem, man. I was tired from watching you and hearing about it.
But I will say this. Going and interacting on the pod from JFK, I was the most lifeless I've heard myself. Like, I was listening back to the pod. I'm like, this part sucks. Get to the better part. And then you guys got into pet peeves and questions. It was fantastic. But I did have some follow-up on that. So, we were talking about beat writers, or a question was asked last week about beat writers. And I really want to chime in on this, because there's a guy out there, and he just put in an article out there this week about, the dysfunction in the Giants front office. And this guy has been pissed off at the Giants ever since they froze him out for writing erroneous shit a few years ago. So his name's Jordan Renan. And he just shit stirs. He puts stuff out there without it being true. And there's another guy on the beat, Pat Leonard, who's just basically an asshole. But I appreciate the fact that Pat Leonard leans into being an asshole. He says, I'm an asshole, I'm gonna run with it. Jordan Renan makes shit up for clicks and then acts like he's a respected reporter and wants people to buy it. So he has people buying it. Talking Giants, the podcast, they do an award every year where they give the best Giants beat reporter award out, and they gave it to Jordan Renan. And the guy has not had verifiable stories or credible reports in like the 5 years since he's been covering the Giants, since he moved to ESPN. And I don't get it. The Giants, for whatever problems they have, and he tends to go after John Mara for everything. Whatever problems the Giants have, one of the things you cannot say is that they're a poorly run organization top to bottom in terms of historical standing. And he tries to say that every time, but the problem is he's just making shit up. And guys, we're a podcast. We don't even make shit up. We try to be credible when we can.
Try.
Yeah.
Try. I mean, you read the article, and it is pretty damning if all of it's true. Even though the one thing he said about some comment he made about some like middling cornerback, I don't think that's a big deal. He's not even a major factor. Like I don't know, he definitely is a shit stirrer. But it when I read it, I sent it to you guys, and I was like, "Whoa, this is really bad." And then Scott went after it, so I thought he might bring that up.
Whatever was said to McLeod, who was the middling corner,
McLeod, yeah.
is like 10 times better than anything Bill Parcells said on a Tuesday to some random player. Bill Parcells would tell someone he was, the worst player in the world, getting it cut, so forth. He'd push everyone's buttons. So
Sim said he did that every day.
I do not put any the guy who's still around. He's actually gone up the chain. He does a great job still. Is Mike Garafolo. Mike Garafolo is one of the best giant beats there ever was, and rightfully so. He's recognized, and now he's on the NFL Network a lot, and he still does great work. And he's not a beat, but if I want Giants news, and he's probably still getting it from Strahan, Jay Glazer's a lot better than half the shit that's being said by the beat reporters with this team.
Yeah, it's decline of all media that we talk about all the time. The one group of people who should know are the beat reporters, but like Scott said, many of them prefer clicks over verified stories. Even today, even by more professional writers, I don't think it was this way even 3 or 4 years ago, but all the headlines are written to generate clicks. Like the headline is always misleading. Giant star cuts down team, and then you go and read it, and it's Nick McLeod. And it's like obviously, like, oh my God, what happened? And you go and read it, and it's just the biggest, fattest nothing burger you've ever had. And I like spend my whole day trying to dodge clickbait, but everything's clickbait now. You can't tell what the story's actually about from a headline anymore.
True.
Hell no.
So, Giants and Jets did not lose this week. They stayed at home. Real teams were playing on the field. And even so, while super wild card weekend, once again, sort of sucked, except for like maybe 1.5 games. So highlights of the playoff games, guys. We already talked about Jaden Daniels got his win, and he's now in the top echelon of quarterbacks, apparently, based on the feedback. Broncos were blown out. And I have to give myself props. I wasn't great in my predictions this week, but I did say when the Broncos scored the touchdown, I said, this reminds me, and it reminded me of like a Giants-Niners game back in the 80s, a playoff game, or could have been a Giants-Redskin playoff game. It just reminded me of a team that came down out of the gate, shot their load, and then that's all they were going to get for the game. Yeah. And I said it 7-0. Guys, I think this is going to be all that Denver gets today, or close to it.
It's a good
call.
Never
did. They did miss a field goal, but they really only got stuck at 7. We saw Justin Herbert. Now he had a monkey on his back coming in these playoffs. He's got a full-blown gorilla on his back now after that loss, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then we saw a game on Monday night. The Rams were playing the Vikings. And, Novak called that game, and he called a blowout in that game. But I still have a problem on this super wild card weekend of playing on a Monday, because that team now has to turn around and play on a Saturday or Sunday the following week.
Well, that's not going to go anywhere. I mean, the NFL and their scheduling and the ratings and all that, I think that Monday night game is here to stay. Because they would then move back to Saturday, I guess, to an early start, because Saturday is like the 4 and 8 o'clock slots now. Mm-hmm. So they would obviously have to they're not going to put 4 games on one day. So I agree though, Scott. It's a disadvantage. This was a weird Monday night game anyway, because of the situation in LA and both teams having to go to a neutral site was kind of strange. And, I was mad at myself after thinking about that, because when we did our predictions last week, by the time I took the games chronologically, and I really wanted to take the Rams. It sounds like 2020. Hindsight now, but man, the Vikings, they looked, it's funny, the Vikings lost 4 games, and did you guys know they only lost to 2 teams? They lost because they got swept by the Lions, and they lost to the Rams in the regular season. So those were their 3 losses, and now they lost to the Rams. So they had 4 losses all year, 2 to 2 teams.
Yep.
But man, the Rams, Was that a combination? What was it? Just the Rams looking really good, or the Vikings just looking in disarray? Combination of both.
Yeah, from what I saw, and I didn't watch the whole game, but yeah. I mean, the Monday night game, guys. Think about it this way: they don't play a Monday night game on the last week of the regular season, right? Why is that? Because they don't want to give anybody a competitive advantage going into the playoffs the next week. But then they don't mind doing it in the middle of the playoffs for some reason. It's fine.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Give us first of all, there's one too many teams, maybe two too many teams in these playoffs. Go back to 2 buys. I know everything I say is always go back to this, go back to that. But the phony pumped up wild card weekend. It is. First of all, I didn't know when the games ended and started. Like the season was still going on, and then there's more games in the middle of the week, and there's college playoff games on. It was like overload. But yeah, the closest game outside of the Commanders and Tampa Bay, and the only reason that game was too close because those are 2 borderline playoff teams anyway. I say that about Washington; they're 12-5, but they didn't seem 12-5 to me.
No.
But the next closest game to that was Eagles-Packers, which was a 12-point game. It didn't really feel like a 12-point game to me watching that game. The Eagles were going to win that game. With the first quarter, halfway through the first quarter, you knew the Eagles were going to win that game. So that's wild. That's super wild card weekend again. I agree it was better than last year. But, I don't know. Was it? If there's one 3-point game and the rest of the games are decided by 12 or more, most of them well over at halftime.
The play was poor though. The scores weren't close, but even the Packer Eagle game was terribly played on both sides of the ball. The Houston game was incredibly boring and terrible football to watch. I mean, I don't really, and the Ram Viking game was the worst of all of them.
Awful.
I mean, so even if they're blowouts, at least you have some exciting teams playing. There was none of that, and it was dreadful. And so the thing for me from this weekend that I can't believe is not getting more discussion: who the fuck brings out a book on the sideline?
Yeah,
I mean, come on. If a New York player does that, it is all over the news, and we're talking about it for days on end. He just likes to read a book. Get out of here. Reading a book with his legs crossed on the sideline. Come on.
These jackoffs look for any new reason to just be captured on camera or social media or some bullshit or become a I don't know. I'm going to discuss a couple of these during my peeves later. I have a kind of a special peeve edition of my. I'll plug myself here with. But that's you kind of alluded to one of them there, Novak. And,
oh shit! Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's all good. But yeah, it's weird. Here we have 6 games to kind of recap, and I'm struggling to find the signature moment like of the weekend, other than all right, we had Commanders Buccaneers. That was a close game throughout, but outside of that, it's just not that exciting.
We haven't even mentioned the Ravens or the Bills because those games were nondescript too.
Nondescript.
Terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about you guys. I felt myself feeling obligated to watch a lot of it.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't I started out excited to watch playoff football on Saturday. I'm a half a game in, and I'm like, there's 5 more of these things I got to sit through. I mean, It was just terrible. The product is just, it is so watered down. This weekend had better be good. I think it will, but this weekend had better be good because last weekend to me was a disaster. I think it was as bad maybe not as bad as last year, like we said, but it was pretty freaking bad.
No, I just look back at last year. Last year was pretty bad, but I don't think it was any more bad than this. I mean, last year the games were 1 second. Head it up. It's 45-14 Texans over Browns, 26-7 Chiefs over Dolphins. 48-32 Packers over Cowboys. I guess that was not a bad game, although the score was lopsided. Then we had the Lions-Rams first round last year, 24-23. And then we closed out on Monday night with a 31-17 smashing of the Steelers by the Bills and a 32-9 smashing of the Eagles by the Buccaneers. So that was last year. Probably, now that I'm looking back at those, probably pretty equal. maybe even last year you could argue there was 2 decent games, where this year there's really only 1.
Rinse, repeat. Same thing as last year at the end of the day.
Yep.
A combination of a couple things. One, both our teams are not in the fucking league. So, like, even as interested and as excited I am, I love watching these 2 weekends, or really the whole, NFL playoffs. That's part of it. I'll be honest, guys. I mean, that's a big part of it. Not being in the tournament. It's like if your team's not in March Madness, it's the same thing. You watch it, but at the same time, you're not really, you're, like you said, Novak, good word. Like, you're just obligated because we're fans and we watch it. And the other part is just the product. We talk about it all the time. The product is just not where it needs to be or should be, and it's just the overhyped nonsense by all of it. The additional amount of pregame and postgame and all. It's too much. It doesn't correlate. It's not aligned with the actual product on the field, and that's where there's a disconnect right there.
By the way, the internet did its job. If you saw the asshole in Philadelphia that was berating a Packers fan, and they got the guy fired. He was calling her a dumb cunt and like clapping her face and kept saying it to her. Guys, with the advent of cameras being all over the place now, you can't do that shit.
Yeah. How are you not smarter?
You definitely can't do it. You can't. When you're leaving a race, you can't yell at the reporters anymore. There's nothing. There's nothing left to do out there.
Who would do like that?
The thing I love, the thing I love about that story is how Eagle fans are like, this is not a representation. Yes, it is.
It absolutely is.
100% is. Stop it. Yes. Stop it.
You guys eat horse shit, like literal horse shit off the ground.
They have to grease the poles, right? So they can't climb them after they win.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, come on.
There's a prison cell in the old Veterans Stadium.
Yeah.
Eat smart. I used to do my stuff when the cameras weren't rolling.
Yeah.
Got to be smart about that stuff.
Listen, ask 100 random fans. Tell them what happened and say, which stadium do you think this happened in?
Oh, yeah.
99 of them are going to say Philadelphia. So stop it to tell me that it's not.
Yeah.
So you guys were talking about this next week being a better slate of games, and I think at least we got 2, maybe 3 good games. But guys, the powerhouse to me is, and I hate seeing this in this round, the Ravens-Bills, because of the way things shook out, and basically Kansas City getting a bye into the final round. We got the Ravens and Bills, we got the Chiefs and Texans, and then we have the Skins-Lions going into Detroit, and then another game that might be competitive, Eagles-Rams. So, I see 2 competitive games there, and probably 2 that probably won't be so competitive. But any thoughts on this weekend's games?
Yeah, I think. Go ahead, Mike.
You go, Cardone. I was just going to talk.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree, Scott. But there's a couple things that could surprise me. One, I'll kind of take these in order. I guess Texans going into Kansas City. Even though they blew up the Clippers in the second half there, that looks like it's just too insurmountable going into that place and trying to get a win there, especially when you're facing the officials as well. I'll tell you one team that I've been trying to snuff out all year is this stupid Commander team. I'm thinking they might actually give the Lions a game, because now. Mm-hmm. And I hate all these cliches. Oh, they're playing with house money and it's gravy now. But they may have that kind of mentality going into Detroit. Not that Detroit's going to be tight. Detroit is not going to play tight. They're at home. I think they're going to come out with a great game plan. So I'm predicting Detroit to win that game. But I think that's going to be closer than most people are thinking. I would agree. That command, they're just a pain in the ass, that team.
Is that a game that might set the record for the most number of times teams go for it on fourth down between those 2 fucking coaches?
Oh, God.
It'll be great. The punters, wouldn't it be great just leave your punters at home? You know what I mean? Don't even bother save on the extra airfare and hotel rooms for your punters, because they're not going to be needed in that game. And then the other games, they look the way the Rams played. Man, now they got to travel across the country and on a short week, so there's a disadvantage there. But I can see that hopefully being close there. I want to see a good game. And then Bills-Ravens, when we do our predictions, I'm curious to see what you guys think about that one, because that's Ravens are actually favored by 1. That's the latest line I saw on the road.
By the way,
so.
wouldn't you know the team that benefits from the other team playing on a Monday night is the Eagles?
Yeah,
of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yep.
Yeah. Can't do it to end the regular season. Competitive disadvantage. But in the playoffs, fuck it.
Yeah, it's all right.
Let's go.
And a team that has to go across the country just happened to work out that way. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, for this weekend, I'm already annoyed because you know why? The NFL got exactly what it wanted. It got Jaden Daniels in the second round. It got the Chiefs a bye, an easy skating win to the championship game. They're going to get a great game in the Bills and Ravens to beat each other up, so one of the winner can go lose to the Chiefs, right? And then of course Philly and the Rams. Fine. So they got everything that the NFL ever wanted. They got in this weekend, and I hate that they did. I wanted something to disrupt that, and sadly we're not going to get it again. We're going to get the friggin' Chiefs again in an AFC Championship game against a battered Raven or Bill team. And then, Lions and Eagles. They scripted it again. They win. Again, they won.
I was going to bring this up actually as a pet peeve, and I held off from doing that. But when I look at the Chiefs, the way this season's set up and the way that the favorable calls went in their way, that basically handed them not only the bye, but also a favorable second round matchup while the Bills and Ravens are beating each other up, like you said.
Yep.
So it's not just an impact of giving the Chiefs wins by this favorable officiating. It also gives them a number 1 seed, which allows them to skate by, and really they only have to play one game hard before they make the Super Bowl.
We didn't talk about it last week, but there was something that we missed that I really wanted to talk about, and that was these Bengals fans. I don't know if you guys caught wind of that at all coming into last week's games, but they wanted an investigation. The Chiefs didn't want to face Joe Burrow in the playoffs, so they laid down on purpose, and they're acting. I'm like, you guys need to know your history. That shit happens all the time. Like the 49ers, I'm sure you guys remember the 49ers absolutely laying down to keep the Giants out of the playoffs.
Yes.
To the Rams. I mean, this happens, and of course it's going to happen. And it's not really necessarily to keep, does anybody really think the Chiefs are any more afraid of the Bengals than the Ravens or the Bills? No, give it a rest for that. Anyway, that's kind of going back in time a little bit, but yeah, this week, I agree with all you guys. I'm looking forward to the Rams-Eagles game. Of course, Ravens-Bills. I think it's interesting that the Bills are 8-0 at home and have a better record than the Ravens. And the Ravens are only 6-3 away, which is a pretty good away record, but, 6-3. And Baltimore's installed there as a 1-point favorite. I think that's I'd never bet on it because I don't trust it for the life of me, but that seems a little odd to me. A team that hasn't lost at home with playing a team that they have a better record than. And, I know a lot of that is how they're playing now, and Ravens look pretty good, but that's by far the most interesting game of the week. Mm-hmm. I will be cheering hard for the Lions, and it's not really a divisional thing as much as Jaden Daniels can't have this much success this early. I do kind of agree with you guys that game's going to be kept close. I mean, we mentioned that the Texans have to go in there and play the Chiefs and the officials, which we know will happen. Jaden Daniels is going to get some calls too, as we've seen happen down the stretch and in the first round of the playoffs. So yeah, shaping up to look way better than last week. And it's, we got 4 games. It's not overkill. There's nothing on Monday except the college title game, which is my absolute nightmare, but good weekend. Looking forward to it.
I did have to look at this spread. So it looks like the point for the Buffalo Baltimore game, it swung 2 points in favor of Baltimore. So it looks like Buffalo opened up as a point favorite and now they're a point dog. So it has moved quite a bit. I wasn't aware of that either, Mike. So I just looked it up. So
yep.
But I think most people are thinking the same thing that, but those are so the people that, your gamblers and your bettors there, people are putting it on Baltimore,
you guys have
to, which is, a little surprising.
You guys have to fact check me on this. Is the MVP race only supposed to be for the regular season, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
So why have I heard that this game this week is a deciding factor between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson on who wins the MVP.
Yeah, who knows? Probably because they changed the rules.
Or maybe the voting happens later, and even though they're not, it's like, when you hear something in court and they say, well, that can't be used in court, but you've already heard it. Like, is it that kind of thing? I don't know.
Yep.
I mean, that must be what it is, but it's stupid. You're right. Like, make the call already, and really, who cares? Just give one of them. So we stop talking about it.
Let's move on. Look at the race. It's like, I don't even know if the Bills are a playoff team without Josh Allen. I think the Ravens could still win with another quarterback. I know he's like 90% of their offense things going on there.
What I found funny was I heard the comment, and I think it was from Tom Brady earlier this past week, where he's talking about if Saquon Barkley had gotten the rushing record, he should be MVP. Well, he sat out on his own, didn't get the rushing record, so he's not going to be the MVP because he decided to sit out. So I mean, what difference does it make if he played Week 18 or not versus Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson? I don't get it. I don't get some of these discussions that they're having on the MVP side. So
I think they're going to end up.
Doesn't make any sense.
I think Allen and Jackson are going to be co-MVPs. It's happened before. This year it's going to happen again.
I don't know how you guys feel about the NBA. Like, I don't really care that much about the
NBA. I really don't either.
I've never cared about it.
Nope.
To me, I don't know. I mean, maybe if it was, my quarterback that was up for the running, I'm sure I'd be like pulling for him. But if he did, like, I don't care that much about it. I don't.
I got caught up in that this year with baseball. I heard people going, Shohei Ohtani is going to be the MVP
over Judge.
Over Judge, and I'm like,
do
you realize each league gives an MVP now?
Oh yeah.
So they both are MVPs.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are dumb.
Right.
People are absolutely dumb. There's no. Right. People are dumb, and now they all have a voice, including us. We used to be just dumb with no voice too. Now we have a voice.
With that, Mike, predictions, so we can all give our dumb predictions. And I know.
Here's our stupid predictions. Our fearless leader with making his predictions from the road, so maybe we should give him a pass, but now we won't. He went 2-4 in the first week. He hit on the Ravens and the Bills, and that was it. Next was me, 3-3. I hit on Philadelphia, the Ravens, and the Bills, so I didn't do much better. And then Novak and Cardone tied at 4-2. They each won their island game. So Cardone goes out on an island to take the Texans, and they pull it off for him. And then Novak goes out on an island twice for Washington and the Rams, and they bring it home for him. We all got the Pittsburgh and Ravens, Denver Buffalo game. Cardone and I hit Philadelphia, and Costa Novak were on Green Bay. So that's the end result of all that. So we'll reverse the order. And since Cardone picked ahead of Novak last week, we'll keep him there. And Cardone, you're leading us off.
All right.
I've got Texans at Kansas City.
Yeah, I'll take these, I guess, in the order which they'll be played. Obviously, I alluded to Kansas City. All year we heard about them winning, squeaking by their opponents, winning all these one-possession games and all that. This will not be a one-possession game. This is going to be just a goof fest for the Texans trying to go into Arrowhead and playing the Swifties and the officials. Kansas City takes this one pretty comfortably. Give me. I'm going to reverse this. I'm going to transpose the numbers here. I go 31-13, Kansas City.
31-13. All right.
Are we going
Novak?
game by game?
Are we going game by game?
We're going to do each game. Yep.
Okay.
So I'm doing all right now,
no,
right?
I'm up now.
No.
We're going circling around.
Yep.
Oh, gotcha.
Round the horn on every game.
Yep.
Okay.
So I of all of the teams that are playing this weekend, there's not a team I want to win more than the Texans. Because like I just said before, I want the NFL to get screwed. I really do. I can't stand the NFL. I love the game. I love football. I love my team, but I hate the NFL. So I want the Texans to win and screw everything up for them because the ratings will be in the shitter if it's the Texans in the AFC Championship. But it won't happen. I'm going to steal from Scott a little bit here. I think the Texans do come out quickly. I think they score a little bit, try to make it interesting, and then we'll hear salivate over Patrick Mahomes' ability for a playoff comeback or something. So I like the Chiefs here, 27-14.
All right. I'll go next. Yeah, I'm with Novak. I mean, I desperately want to pick the Texans. Something tells me that they're going to keep this one close. I don't know what that is or why. They played really well in the second half against a Charger team that I thought would beat them. Kansas City, tough place to play. It's probably going to be, minus 27 or whatever there. And I just don't think the officials will let it happen. So I think it'll stay close throughout. And I think we're going to have, Kansas City, their offense is still a little suspect to me. I don't really trust that. So I'm going to take Kansas City in this one, 24-20.
And for me, I think the Chiefs were one of the teams that really didn't score 30 points this year or something like that. It was like they were one of the teams where the offense sputtered. One thing I did not bring up in the recap of the other games, and I can bring up now because he's no longer on the Texans, but Deontay Johnson, how many teams did this guy go through this year?
And in 1 year.
He's gone. So, and he's not like he's a terrible player. He was good with the Steelers, went to the Panthers, flopped there, went to the Ravens. They cut him, goes to the Texans. They cut him. He was on 4 teams this year, and now he's without a team. That being said, I agree with Mike and Scott here that I think the Texans are going to keep this one close. And I'm going to go one step above you guys and say the Texans are going to be in position to win this game or have the lead. And there's going to be a very controversial call that will happen that will hand this game to the Chiefs. And I don't know if it's going to be one of those where it's a controversial pass interference and they end up getting a field goal at the end. But I'm looking at this game being a 21-20 game for the Chiefs, and mark my words, you're going to hear about reform, everything else after this game from everyone but Chiefs fans, because I think there's going to be an epic call here that will go against them.
Yeah, normally you might say something like that is a bold call, but it literally happens twice in 3 weeks with the Chiefs every week. So yeah, I love that call. All right, the team formerly known as the Redskins are at Detroit. Cardone, what you got?
So, I just mentioned before that Washington, they're kind of a pain in the ass. And the way I see this game going is I can see Washington having like the lead at halftime. I can see something going on there. Maybe it's like a 13-10 score, Redskins leading at half. And then at some point, I think Detroit's going to find their high-powered offense in the second half. So the Redskins will be a pain in the ass for about 2.5 to 3 quarters. And then it's going to look like a comfortable win because I think Detroit scores maybe a late touchdown to kind of cushion the game a little bit. So give me the Lions 34-20. But the Redskins, they're going to hang around for a good part of about 2.5 quarters. Maybe even full 3 quarters, and finally Detroit pulls away. So I got both number Novak. 1 seeds moving on, looks like.
Yeah, I initially wanted to call this a close game, just because I think, like I said, Jaden Daniels is the darling, and they're going to want to keep him in this game. But I think the Lions are significantly better. I think the Commanders got their playoff win. This is just the epitome of the team that gets a playoff win, and this is as much as they need to do. And I think the Lions end up blowing them out. So I'm going to say Lions 41, Commanders 17.
Yeah, I'm thinking along the same lines as that score. This to me seems like a game where Detroit needs a quarter to knock the rust off, and it really depends on what Washington does in that first quarter. Yeah, if that game is 0-0 or 3-3 at the end of the first, it is turn on the afterburners and Detroit's gonna take over and blow them out. And I think something like that will happen. And I'm gonna say 40-17.
Yeah, same with me here. I have to make this game a multiple of 7s because both these coaches, they hate field goals.
Good point.
They really don't want to go after field goals, and unless they're forced to, and it's like a 4th and 17 from the 25, they're not really wanting to kick them. And it's maddening at times. And it worked out for the Commanders last week, which pissed me off because they went for it on fourth down a couple of times where they really shouldn't have gotten it, and they did, and they ended up winning that game. And then, of course, Tampa Bay handed it to them because Baker Mayfield all of a sudden can't perform a regular handoff and stuff. So I'm going with the Lions in this game, 28-14.
All right, on to the Rams at Eagles. Cardone.
Yeah, I'm just looking. I'm trying to get a feel for, the Eagles they had a win against the Packers, but it didn't feel, I don't know about you guys, it didn't feel like, they certainly didn't have like a dominant performance, or, especially for a team at home. And the Packers, I feel like they were dragging guys off on the cart every other minute or so. I don't know how many injuries those guys had, Green Bay. So Philly to me is they're probably going to get a win here, but I don't see it as, like just that they're playing exceptional football. I think they're going to get the win just because it's at home. The Rams are, again, coming off a short week. Now, to me, one thing, the Rams' defensive line, I mean, they had, 9 sacks against that Minnesota line, mostly because Darnold holds on to the ball for fucking 8 seconds. But nonetheless, my prediction is the Rams had 9 sacks. Watch, they won't sniff Jalen Hurts in the backfield. They probably get none this week. But I think the Rams are – I'm glad it's the Rams and not the Vikings trying to take out the Eagles, because I think the Rams have a better chance. I think it's going to be a close game. The Eagles will benefit from some bullshit turnover or some nonsense late in the game. I have the Eagles winning a close one, 23-19.
23-19. Novak.
Yep. So for me, I said it last week that I felt something's off with these Eagles. Something. Jalen Hurts gets that puss face when he's not playing well or something, and he sits down on the sideline like, he's distraught. A.J. Brown reading a book, that stupid Sirianni. So there's one reason there. The second reason for me, which is why I'm going to end up going with the Rams, is how much can you see the NFC Championship being the story about Matt Stafford going back to Detroit? I mean, it's going to be Matt Stafford's return to Detroit, and they're going to hype this stupid thing up, even though he's played there like 5 times since. Like, stop it with that. So because of those 2 reasons, I'm going to take the Rams actually in a blowout here, 31-13.
You're going with the Matt Stafford revenge story again. The revenge game.
Yeah.
Well, he's played like 100 times now. It's not a revenge game. They do it the one time he plays, and then move on.
Move on.
He plays in the sport. Like, stop it.
Not only that, Stafford versus Goff. It's a double revenge.
It's going to be the narrative the whole week.
Yeah.
God, that's a nightmare. This league. I am all over the place on this game. As soon as I pick this pick, I'll regret it, but I'm going to stick by it. And it's kind of similar to Novak's reasoning for picking the Rams. So I am picking. I feel like there's something wrong. I don't know if it's with the team this year, but Jalen Hurts doesn't look right. He's not playing right. He doesn't look right. His demeanor looks off. There's something funky going on with that team. Not like last year where the wheels completely came off. But this has not been, the Eagles have not been. Now, if they lose this game, if they win this, then it's a different story. But they've had some rocky finishes the last few seasons to the season. And I think that trend continues here. I'm going to take the Rams in a game where the score looks bigger than the actual game was played, but I'm going to go 28-19.
I thought I was going to be on an island in this game. So my thoughts going into this were, look, the Eagles got by a Packers team, like Cardone said, that was basically a mash unit. By the end of the game, they were looking for volunteers from the crowd to come in and play wide receiver. But when I look at the Eagles team, they have Saquon Barkley, and after that, everything else is a little bit suspect. And when I look at the Rams, and Cardone mentioned the 1-4 start and how they, overcame that and made the playoffs. This team has a lot of weapons. I mean, even if you stop Puka Nacua, you still got Cooper Kupp, who is not what he used to be, but he's making catches. And then a guy who came off of an ACL tear and is back and is catching balls all over the place, Tyler Higbee, is out there. And you also have one of the better running backs in the league in Kyron Williams. So this team has a lot of weapons. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think this is one of those things where it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a December game. But I also agree with this whole idea that I won't say the NFL scripts things, but they sure like a good story. And what a story it would be if Stafford plays golf to decide who goes to the Super Bowl. McVay and Campbell, both gunslinging coaches. So I'm going with the Rams as well. And I have this actually as a 2-score game. I have it 34-24.
Scott, you wouldn't pick an NFC East team to win if they were playing the Jaguars.
I can't believe I ended up on an island there with
Cardone ends up on an island out there
with the home team.
I can't. I bet when you made that pick, you didn't think you were going to be on an island, Cardone.
I did not.
All right. Well, let's see what you got for the Ravens and the Bills.
So, it's funny. I'm going to contradict myself here because we were just talking about. I just mentioned wow, it's kind of surprising that the Ravens are favored by a point on the road and the whole thing. But this is an interesting game for a couple reasons. We know about both. It's if we're focusing on just the quarterbacks, two really great quarterbacks in this game. One I really love. One just whatever. The guy can't argue with Lamar Jackson's numbers and stuff. The numbers the guy puts up are video game-esque. So one of these guys have to get over the hump, right? In terms of making a deep playoff run. They're both right on the cusp there. I think Lamar only has, prior to this year, he had only the one playoff win. I think now he's got 2. So we know about his, need to make a deep run in the playoffs. Josh Allen, we know about his playoff history. I think, and we just tapped on it. Scott, I think you just touched on it where, Josh Allen is doing more with less and has all year. I think this particular game, I think the Ravens just kind of eke by them with a couple extra plays and a couple extra, third or fourth down kind of conversions. Something's going to happen there where the Ravens do just a little bit extra. I think this is Lamar's year to get to that championship game and a game away from Super Bowl. So I'm going in a close one. I don't know exactly how the game's going to end, but it could be one of, maybe a last second field goal kind of thing or something. But I got Baltimore 27-24.
24 on the Ravens.
That's my only road game. My only road prediction. Yeah. Road winning team.
For me, I have flip-flopped on this game all week. I think this is the best game of the year. I think it's the best game that we will see. I think it's going to be the best game for the rest of the year. Better than any of the championship games, Super Bowl, all of it. I think this is a must-see game. And I think these two teams are so evenly matched that's why it's so hard to pick this game. But when I have two teams, in my opinion, that are so evenly matched, I lean on coaching. And for me, Harbaugh's a better coach. So with that, I'm going to take the Ravens here 31-30.
A nail biter.
Yep. 31-30. I see this as one of these games we see a lot. I think we see it a lot in the playoffs too. It's where it's like two teams spend 2.5 quarters kind of feeling each other out, and it's, there's a lot of punting. It's maybe 13-10, and then one team strikes and the other team strikes, and then it just turns into this thing at the end of the game where all of a sudden you're in a shootout when you weren't before. I'm with Novak. These games come down to defense and coaching always, it seems like. But I think the Bills have some home magic here. I think the Bills are going to win this game, and I think they're going to win it to the tune of 42-40. I think that it's just going to be defense optional in the second half of the third and fourth quarter.
For me,
I like it.
I look at this game as much like Novak. I think this game will define, the playoffs. I don't think it's going to be as exciting of a finish of a game, but I think in terms of the hype of these two teams, it's well worth it. And I saw a graphic last week, and I had to question the math on this. It said that Sean McDermott now has as many playoff wins as Marv Levy, and it said something like 6 playoff wins. And I think it meant home playoff wins. If I'm going back,
because there's no way they went to 4 Super Bowls.
Otherwise,
in a row.
they went to the Super Bowl 4 times. I'm going. That's a minimum of 8, even back in the day when you had fewer teams. So I was looking at that, but that's just an aside. For me, I see the Bills winning this game 30-20, and I don't think Josh Allen is necessarily going to outplay Lamar Jackson. What I think will happen is James Cook is going to be a huge factor in this game. He's come on at the end of the year, and I think the Bills have relied on him more as they've looked for receiver options because Amari Cooper has not really stepped up. They've struggled at receiver. So I see the Bills pulling this out. The only thing that keeps me a little cautious on this game is that whenever money switches on the betting line, there's always something fishy there on why that happens. Someone knows something that I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That is a good point.
Yeah.
Are we going
to
call the Jags Titans game?
Are they playing
again?
Someone in the AFC South playing.
Colts Jags, yeah. Colts Titans. So that game will decide everything because Cardone and Novak, who already have a lead on Cost and I, are with the Ravens, and Cost and I are with the Bills. So after this week, there's only 3 games left. So not much.
I got the island. I'm on Survivor Island there with the Eagles of all teams.
Cardone's on Eagles Island. Yeah.
So,
good stuff.
So by the way, he flopped, but Justin Herbert's hair stayed perfectly in place while gloriously throwing 4 interceptions and handing out more turnovers than Pepperidge Farm. And that's because he's a rugged uncle. A modern-day gunslinger who has his hair held in place by the gold standard in men's styling butter, rugged uncle. He may have fewer playoff wins than Daniel Jones or Tim Tebow, but in hair care, he's a massive winner if he's got pine resin and a whiff of mango holding down the fort. So go to ruggeduncle.com. Use code AngryFans to get a discount on your order, and guys, order it. Like Novak said last week, he didn't have anything, interesting to say. He just said, "Go and order."
I did not.
That's all you need to do.
Just go order it, man.
Go place an order.
I had nothing. I got nothing.
I tell you, who must be using Rugged Uncle? The entire Los Angeles Rams coaching staff. Have you guys seen the perfect heads of hair on McVay and the rest of that coaching staff? Yeah. Who's their fucking barber? Who's running that hair
team barber
operation on the Rams, right?
Yeah.
You guys notice this?
Yeah, and the interview process, I'm like, he's bald. He's out. Don't get him in here.
Out.
These guys have the perfect immobile heads of hair. They got to be using Rugged Uncle. What else could it be?
That's the only solution. It's got to be.
There's no doubt. That's the thing about Rugged Uncle is, you're like Scott said, it doesn't matter if you have Rugged Uncle in your hair. If you throw 4 interceptions, you're still the man.
Yeah,
you're still the man.
Still look good.
You could brush that off, go to the locker room, walk out. The guy probably got more tail that night than he has in a long time. He's not any more football to play.
Probably got some pity tail or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
Empathetic pity, empathetic tail. Empathetic tail.
He throws a pick 6 and he comes to the sideline and his teammates go, he takes his helmet off. I go, well, look at his hair. I mean, who cares that he throws a pick 6?
We got to go out and play defense for this guy.
Right.
Novak was talking earlier about Darnold losing $100 million in the last 2 weeks. Guys, Justin Herbert now, he's got 0 playoff wins, and not only that, he's looked terrible in some of these games. And they had a great season, much like the Vikings had a great season, but both these teams now are home, and I wonder what the psyche does to that. I had every belief, I know Mike did in Harbaugh, and I thought the Chargers really would make a push in these playoffs, but Herbert looked as bad as I've seen a quarterback look in the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. And, I love Jim Harbaugh, and I think the Chargers are going to be a problem there in the AFC for those teams for a long time. But, yeah, Herbert, man, he looked bad. And I know how Harbaugh feels about that guy. Harbaugh loves Justin Herbert. Well, I mean, the word on the street before he even took the job was that the reason he's going to take the Chargers job is because of Herbert. So it'll be interesting to see how that comes out. But I do think, I mean, we were Cardone and I were in our favorite establishment mulligans, just yelling, "Here's Mr. Elite at the TV Elite. while he's just throwing interception after interception. Yeah, it doesn't look good for him right now.
You guys stay for all 3 games or just 2?
There was only 2. We stayed for 1.5 about Cardone.
Yeah.
Oh, you did Saturday. Sunday.
Yeah, stayed. Saturday.
Yeah.
We did a Saturday appearance.
Yeah, I got the unexpected extraction. Yeah, that's what someone never was. You're yucking it up in the bar with your buddies, having a good time, and you look at the door, and your wife's walking in.
You guys braved Snowmageddon?
Oh yeah. God. I think I can count the number of flakes. It was Flake-amageddon.
So, pet peeves. I'll start with Novak and the pet peeves.
So I have a quick one, and it was something that you guys probably didn't notice, but I'm gonna alert you to it so that maybe, I don't know that it'll happen again, but keep an ear out for it, because you know how I am so locked in on these commentators and the shit they say. If I had to hear one more time, anytime a player used to play for the Jets, they've got to call him a former Jet that's in the playoffs. And they did it with the Giants too.
Mm-hmm.
I heard it, like, if I had to hear one more time, and like a guy that played for like 7 teams, former Jet, whoever the guy was, but they had to mention he played for the Jets. And the Giants, they called out too. Did I ever hear them once say former Colt or former Jaguar, former Texan? No, it was only former Jet or former Giant. That is the only 2 teams they reference all weekend. 6 games. It had to happen 15 times. And I'm like, either they're fucking with me because they know that the Jet fans never get a playoff team, so they might as well throw it and kick in our face, or they just have to mention New York for some reason. But you guys were mentioned a ton too, and I was so annoyed by it. Just why can't you mention other teams? They played for the Chargers. Like Sam Darnold, he played for the Panthers and the 49ers, but all they mentioned was former Jet.
Former Jet, Sam Darnold. Yeah.
So,
and his backup is former Giant, Daniel Jones.
And they even talked about Daniel Jones. Like, he's not even on the field. He's not even dressed.
He was inactive.
Yeah, he was inactive. And they had to talk about former Giant Daniel Jones, who's not even playing.
Not even playing.
So I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's just, maybe I'm overly sensitive to it, but my pet peeve is stop talking about former Jets and Giants in the playoffs. I get it. We let these players go who are contributing to their teams. It just kick me when I'm down. Just another kick in the nuts.
Well, Xavier McKinney, who decided to fuck with his hand on an ATV accident, is on the sideline berating people for not doing their jobs. And people are talking about former Giant Xavier McKinney, who, by the way, left the Giants because he wanted $18 million a year for a safety. And we talk about, and this could be a pet peeve in its own, Giant fans scream about positional value with Barkley and McKinney being a running back and a safety, yet now they're really bad that we let these 2 go. Did you want to tie up $40 million in a running back and a safety?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Maybe the 2 most deservedly so undervalued positions in football. And the Giants were staring down the barrel of a gun, talking about giving like $35 million to those 2 positions.
Yeah.
It's another thing people don't talk about. And
Mm-hmm.
It's, yeah, you're right on. But yeah, I've noticed that, Novak, and I think a lot of that is that they are trying to tell you how much better that player has it now, right?
Yes,
that's what they're trying.
You're right. You said it better than I did. I think that's what they're trying to do. But why? Why do you got to pick on me?
Yeah.
What if the Jets they don't do anything? They suck. Yeah. They're a bottom feeder. Why do you got to bring them up?
Yeah. And Darnold's a perfect example.
I think it's New York.
I mean,
it is.
The Jets.
New York.
It's all about, this guy, former Giant. Can you imagine if he was still a Giant? He wouldn't even be playing right now.
bias against New York. They hate it.
They do.
So I'll go next because it sort of ties into mine too. I was talking about announcers too. So what bothered me, and this was really evident right away in the Bills-Broncos game, is Romo spent the first 15 minutes just jizzing all over both Bo Nix and Peyton. Talking about how great they are. And then, of course, they come out and they get the opening TD, and Romo's like, oh, Nix, look at the poise of this guy. And poise could be a pet peeve in its own because they use that term probably 50 times for Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. But they talked about Nix and Peyton for the entire first half. And then nothing was brought up after that as the Bills are ceremoniously blowing them out at the end of the game. And here's what I have a problem with, and it comes up with the Redskins too, is it was never brought up the Broncos and the Redskins, who they played this year and who they beat. The Broncos had a horrendous record against teams with a winning record. Mm-hmm. The teams they beat were guys like the Panthers,
the Jets,
the Jets, the AFC Central or whatever it's called, the South.
Right.
The South with like the Colts, the Texans, everyone else in there. They were beating up at bottom feeders. They had a win against the Chiefs in week 18 or week 17, whatever we're calling it, where the Chiefs rested their starters. Other than that, they beat like one team with a winning record. And yet we treated these guys like they belonged in the playoffs. This is the recipe for a team that's not going to make the playoffs next year, especially in the division where you have Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes. Same thing with the Redskins. The Redskins had a lot of teams they beat this year that were really bad, including the Giants twice and the Cowboys twice. So you're looking at divisional teams there. No one brings that up when talking about Jaden Daniels because everyone wants to prop up Jaden Daniels. So I have a problem with the overhyping of these teams. But the fact that these announcers spend so much time during playoff games talking about how great these teams are, dig a little deeper, guys. I mean, there's a reason the Broncos got blown out by the Bills, and it wasn't just because the Bills played good. It's because the Broncos really, in reality, suck ass. And you're trying to make us think that Bo Nix and Sean Payton are doing something special there. They got into the playoffs, but you know what? Just as easily, the Colts could have gotten into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Or the Bengals.
The Colts, had they not got the shit kicked out of them in a fucking Giants Grey Goose game for
an inexplicable Giants Grey Goose.
Inexplicable. We didn't even have any Grey Goose anywhere nearby. Who was expecting one? The Grey Goose sales guy's been calling us all year. Like, you guys, you haven't placed an order in a while. You must be low. What's your inventory? We fucking don't need any.
You're right, Scott. I mean, look, we've talked about this before. There's no creativity. They go into these games and they just beat to death the one storyline all game long. And it doesn't matter what happens. They beat it to death. And they want so badly for those storylines to play itself out. And like I said, that's why I'm annoyed that it all worked out for them, with the exception of Bo Nix playing well, because he didn't play well. And of course, look, I did the same thing. I was texting you guys, oh, you shouldn't have passed on this guy after that touchdown, and then he sucked the rest of the game. But yeah, you're right. They just beat it to death, and I'm tired of it. Come up with something else.
I'll tell you what, I've been a guy that's been in Tom Brady's corner most of this year in terms of announcer. I thought he was really bad in this playoff game, and I think part of that was because he started just talking about how great players are. That look a little deeper.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do.
Yeah. Well, Tom showed us in the beginning of this year what this is all about. So, Tom let slip or whatever that, hey, that's in the contract that he signs, that you can't talk bad about the refs. So who knows what else is in this contract? What they're being dictated to what they can and can't talk about. And I think they took him a while to kind of rein Tom in, but now they got him. Here is the things you talk about this week. And this is what the NFL wants Bo Nix pumped up. The NFL wants Jaden Daniels pumped up. Last year it was CJ Stroud, but CJ was out there earning it mostly. But now we see what happens to players in their second year. Everyone comes back down to earth, except for tiny handful of players.
DJ Stroud, 2 straight years with playoff wins.
Yeah.
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 I mean, look, like I said, I can't wait for that Bill Raven game. I can't. I think it's going to be fantastic. I don't want to listen to the commentators. It's going to be Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. There's 22 players out there at once.
Yeah.
And it's going to be these guys are going to throw a pass into the ground to avoid intentional grounding, and they're going to salivate over it.
What a smart play!
Yes.
By the way, we never brought this up. What about that non-intentional grounding, non-fumble on Stafford?
I'll get to that. I want to get to that one.
Right, I'll let that hold.
It's on the checklist.
All right, Mike.
Yeah, I'll go. Mine, I kind of had one again. I've been trying to work in for like 3 weeks, and I had another one jump in front of it. So, I got to talk about Mike Tomlin, guys, and he's not my pet peeve. Pittsburgh Steelers fans are my pet peeve. They absolutely hate this guy, like to a man. Somebody was mouthing off about him on Twitter the other night, and I posted something like, you have no idea what you're talking about. You give this guy up, the rest of the league wants him. You are spoiled rotten if you don't want this guy. And I'm not kidding. It's the most viewed and commented on thing I've ever put on Twitter, which is not a very big number to get to, but just people blowing me up. Asshole. What are you talking? There's a loser. Oh, Mr. Mediocrity, this and that. And I'm like, no, man, your players are mediocre. It's amazing that he's winning 8 and 9, 10 games with these. You don't see that. You don't see that you need a transfusion of talent in Pittsburgh. You really don't see that. You got Russell Wilson running around back there. Najee Harris running the ball. He stinks. He's awful. The defense still plays tough, but they're not the defense from a couple of years ago. I just don't think people understand how incredibly difficult it is to win playoff games and how damn near impossible it is to win a Super Bowl in this league. You have got to have everything go right. Your schedule has to be right. Your injuries have to be right. You have to hit the right teams in the playoffs. You have to have some bounces go your way. You have to get some calls, and you have to do that continuously against good teams in the playoffs. It's not easy. It's not something that you're going to swap out Mike Tomlin for somebody and all of a sudden take this team to the playoffs. You're nuts. We talked last week about who would the guys be who are available right now, who people want. Well, it's Vrabel, right? Well, and Ben Johnson apparently are the guys. But let's just pretend for the sake of this argument that Vrabel didn't already go to New England. You want Mike Vrabel over Mike Tomlin. That's what your argument would be, that you want a guy who's never done it and who's coached some really bad teams, not to 500, not to the playoffs, but just some bad teams. You want him to take over this guy who has literally never failed. So, and Ben Johnson, who knows what the hell you're getting? He does not seem like the right coach for Pittsburgh to me. He doesn't seem like a Pittsburgh guy. Can anyone else see Pittsburgh running a bunch of double reverses and it's I don't get it. And I'll say this. People right now talk about championships. They want to win championships. We've talked about it many times on this podcast, but Brett Favre played for 20 years in this league and won one. He is a walk-in Hall of Famer, and for a lot of that time, he played on really good teams. It's not the Archie Manning story here. This dude was on good teams year in and year out. The Dick played 20 years in this league, has only won one. Drew Brees played 20 years, only won one. Peyton Manning played 17, only won two. Ben Roethlisberger played 18, won two. I mean, this is not easy to do. We have outliers now who've played recently, which I think is part of the problem. Is you got like Mahomes and Tom Brady who win like 40% of the years they played in the league, they've won a Super Bowl at the end. But that's not going to happen to your team, dude. That's not going to happen to your team. If it does, you win some kind of cosmic lottery that you're not going to win. Just take your playoffs every year. God, what wouldn't the four of us do for playoffs every year?
To have a chance every year.
2 first rounders for old. Tomlin. I'm telling you that right now.
It might get old after 8-9 years, but dude, you these guys are be careful what you ask for. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, he's gotten to the playoffs with Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett and Devlin Hodges. Like, come on, stop
Novak,
it.
Remind our listeners what year was it? Was the last time the Jets made the playoffs?
2010.
There you go.
2010. 15 years ago.
I have to laugh.
15 freaking years.
I have to laugh at this. This popped up on my Twitter timeline this week. But Sir Purr downed a punt in the end zone once against the Steelers. And he downed it. It was during Christmas time because Sir Purr's wearing the.
It was a live ball, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a live ball. and they're showing Cowher on the sidelines, and he's not even angry. He's just sort of laughing at the whole deal. So this is Christmas week probably because Sir Pur's got a Santa hat on. He downs the ball. He covers it up in the back of the end zone. Cowher's yucking it up. The very next play, Cornell Stewart takes a ball from the 20 because it was a touchback. And he runs 80 yards for a touchdown. that sort of sums up both franchises' histories right there.
Yeah. Sir Purr, the only mascot with an NFL stat. He's got a stat in the NFL.
Well, does Poe count being on the injury report on the injury list?
ACL tear?
For the ACL. Maybe not a stat, but he was on the report injury list.
Cardone, since you had rapid fire pet peeves, I think you should go last.
All right, I'll. I couldn't with all the action in Super Wild Card Weekend. I couldn't decide on just one. So I started to write them down, guys, and I may have to just refer to my list here just so I don't lose track of some stuff. It's going to be like a Dave Letterman top 10 list here.
Yes.
So I'm not going to read them in backwards order or anything like that. I'm taking these just in random order how I wrote them down. So all right, here, let's kick it off. Here we go.
So I'm going to just breaking glass sound.
Yeah, when he took the card and just right. So I'm just going to take these in random order. Like I said, I wrote these down. So all right, here we go. In the Clippers Texans game, it drives me crazy when we saw the blocked extra point attempt after Ladd McConkey had that long touchdown, and you have a kicker, a holder, and all these other guys. No one knows the fucking rules. These guys just stand around. The kicker bats the ball down thinking it's like to stop an incomplete pass, and it goes the other way for 2 points. No one knows what's happening. I'm tired of these guys not knowing the rules. I don't care if this kicker's from Australia, from Saskatchewan. I don't care where he's from. Know the fucking rules. On that same play, we got to watch the special teams coach running around like a kid at a birthday party with his he's running around like a lunatic. Meanwhile, I'm yelling with Hisman at the bar, barking at the guy. Hey, asshole! Right before that McConkey, the 86-yard touchdown, you were up by 17. Now you're only up by 13, even after the 2 points were scored. So you just lost 4 points off your lead, and you're jumping up and down on the sidelines like an idiot. All right, moving on. I found an article from the weekend, and I'm going to have to show it to the camera here. You probably can't read that, but it says, the article is assessing NFL quarterback situations from Wild Card Weekend. All right, so I gave it a shot. I'm scrolling through, and it just names each team and talks about their quarterback. Obviously, you got Lamar, you got Josh Allen, you got all the team, and it just basically it's a tiny little paragraph on how each quarterback performed and what their what their prediction could be for next week. And as I'm scrolling through, obviously you have all the quarterbacks. I get down to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they got fucking Wilson and Justin Fields on the under the highlight. Look at it here. I don't know if you can see that, but and I'm thinking, as I'm scrolling through, I'm like, oh, what the fuck you got to mention Justin Fields for? The guy threw one pass in the game. How many snaps was he on the field for? He's in this article recapping the quarterback assessing his play. So then I think, well, why not assess Riley Dixon's play for the punter for the Broncos? He fucking threw a pass on a fake punt, and he at least completed a pass. Fields was 0 for 1. Dixon was 1 for 1 on a fake punt. Why not put Dixon in under the Bronco recap? We got to hear from Justin Fields. Unbelievable. Moving on. We already covered this one earlier. The word doink now, when a ball hits off the upright and it goes through, that is a new pet peeve of mine. Tirico lost his mind on the word doink. We had to refer to the double doink, of course, when the Bears had double doinked and they lost a playoff game. So we had to hear about doinking all weekend. Scott, you just brought this one up before. Again, these are in random order here. Matthew Stafford is being ripped to the ground by a Minnesota Viking defender to the point where Stafford is staring at the ground. He decides to just flip the ball with no consequences whatsoever. Some Viking picks it up, runs the other way. Keep in mind this was a 10-3 game at that point. That would have tied the game. And somehow they decide that this is an incomplete pass. How is it not at least grounding? So not only do you lose the scoop and score, you lose even the sack yardage. You lose everything from that play. If that was the 1980s, that's on the blooper reel. Remember the blooper, the NFL films? Yeah. That's on the blooper reel. And
when they have the clown music,
being murdered for that play. Yeah, and it goes as just an incomplete pass.
By the way, I have to ask though, how is that not grounding?
How's it not grounding?
He intentionally threw the ball to the ground. It really should be a fumble. Daniel Jones has fumbled for less.
It's a fumble. He's just taking it. He's just throwing. He's just getting rid of the ball. He's just dropping it. That play was unbelievable. That's not grounding. How is it not grounding? His head is is looking into the ground, into the dirt. How does he know where he's throwing the ball? That's at a minimum. That's grounding. Stafford gets away with nothing. Vikings never got any closer to that. The rest is history. You know how I feel about the running clock, guys. A playoff game, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers ran 44 plays of offense. I'll leave it at that. 44 plays in a fucking, the average, I think, is supposed to be like somewhere around 70 to 75, something like that. I think it's 73 plays. The Buccaneers they were lucky to be in that situation, I guess, being having a chance to win. They ran 44 plays. We already covered this one. A.J. Brown reading a fucking book on the bench. I got no place for that in the NFL at all. And, of course, that's taken off on social media. Sticking with that game, I only got a couple more here. How on the opening kickoff was that the fucking Philadelphia Eagles ball? Because it was a big hit? Because it was a good hit on the how? I can't remember who the Packer was. The opening. You guys remember the opening kick? Yeah,
they fumbled the kickoff.
They showed the drone footage over there. The Packer is laying on the ground with the ball. He's got his arms around it. Eagles are laying all over him. So obviously he's down by contact. He has the ball. How the fuck is that not down by contact? How is that Eagles football? Bullshit on that one. The rest of the game, there was history. That was no chance of coming back there for the Packers.
By the way, let me stop you there because that was one of my pet peeves too. When do we? What is there any understanding of what assisted replay means? Because assisted replay stepped in. It stepped in one of the games, and it corrected one part of the play and not another part of the play. It corrected. I can't remember what game it was in. It might have been the Bills game, but I can't remember. There was one thing where a incomplete pass was not ruled. No, it was not ruled an eligible man downfield. Mm-hmm. But on the field, it was ruled an incomplete pass, but the guy caught the ball. So what was assisted replay looking at? And again, on that fumble, Cardone, they took a look at that replay.
They did.
The guy looked like he had the ball in his hands, secured on the ground, and they still let it go.
He's got the ball cradled on it. He's got his both arms around it. He's obviously down by contact. There's people laying all over him. So at that point, forward progress has stopped. All those criteria that goes into, like, when you see a running back or whatever, like where the ball is, he has the ball. He's on the ground. He's not going anywhere. I swear, because it was a big hit. And and it was the opening kickoff. They just awarded the ball to the Philadelphia Eagles. It's bullshit. That was just a bullshit call. And Eagles, what they score in that? Did they score? Was it
touchdown?
They did score a touchdown. Yeah. That was the opening play, opening drive of the game. I was going to say field goal, but no, they did. They scored a touchdown. So, and then my last one, he corrected himself very quickly. But again, Novak, this to your point. This year, with Saquon Barkley and all that he's accomplished, we have to hear again about this guy. Did have seasons of 1,000 or more yards with the New York Giants. It wasn't like this guy fucking couldn't get out of his own way of his own dick in the Giant backfield. The guy did have like several 1,000-yard seasons, and this obsession with the success that he's had with this Eagle team this year. So right after the game, right after the Eagle, the conclusion of the game, Kevin Burkhardt, what does he trot out there? And Saquon Barkley gets his first playoff win of his career. I came flying off. I hadn't moved in 3 hours because I'm just sitting there taking the game in. I came flying off of that couch fast as I could. I'm like, no, he didn't, you fucking asshole, Burkhardt. He won 2 years ago against the Vikings. Do you not remember? And then Burkhardt quickly corrected himself. Oh, wait a minute. He's so like the social media, the broadcasters, and albeit we know Barkley, we know the year, we predicted it on this pod. Not that it was that hard to predict, but they're so obsessed with the fact that this guy, it's as if this guy couldn't even like get on the was the worst player in the history of the Giants, backfield. So Burkhardt he was so quick to say first playoff win for Barkley's career. Oh, wait a minute. No, someone was probably in his ear like, no, asshole. The Giants did beat the Vikings 2 years ago, and he was on that roster and scored a touchdown that game. And
They do. They act like Barkley was released from a Turkish prison. I mean, they really do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he left just the worst situation on the planet, and he is reborn in Philly. They do. Yeah. And why, like, our pet peeves kind of, go together. Why? Why is it always the Jets and the Giants?
I don't know.
Yep.
Just another dig.
That's 100% the case. They don't even bother. He just burst that out there because, of course, it has to be true. The Giants have been in the playoffs. So, exactly. There was that 1 year. Oh, yeah.
Well, that's the thing, guys. And it's not like
I'm like people listen to us. I can say anything I want.
Listening to us, you might be like, "Oh, stop being a crybaby or something." No, because you never hear that about any other.
Never.
No, they don't make that mistake.
No.
They don't make that mistake on air. And of course, but it was trotted out there just because, well, obviously this is his first playoff win in his career. It has to be.
Yeah, can't be any other way. Yeah, must be.
So interesting enough, we have a lot of questions this week, and we don't have any for Peacock Corner as Novak dubbed it.
Way to go, Peacock! I finally get your own segment of the pod.
He's got his own segment.
I created this segment for him, and he let us down. What the hell?
So we still do have several ones. I reached out to Peacock this afternoon and said, any questions? And I didn't hear back. So hopefully everything's all right. But one of my friends, Ogre, he's got a question. He's a Jets fan, but he says, would we rather see as a Cowboys coach, Deion, Saleh, or Kellen Moore? And I would love to see Deion. I'm with you, Mike. I'd love to see Deion. Yeah. I think that's a train wreck that everyone has to watch.
Yes,
Sanders, because that's a failure. It would just be a media goof fest failure. It would have to be Deion for me.
I mean, I would agree. Even though I'm not a Giant fan, but I would agree. But I will say, guys, just be careful. Deion's already apparently his word out. He does not want his son playing for the Browns. And so you know who drafts third. And if the Titans end up taking Cam Ward, there's something there. There's something there.
Hopefully it's going to be the Browns have learned from this mistake after mistake after mistake of taking these quarterbacks who do not grade out really that well, but they're just trying to catch fire. Hopefully they've learned from that. The Raiders will give you their next 2 drafts for Shedeur Sanders. Just do it.
True. That is true.
Just do it.
You're right. You're right about that.
Learn something, Cleveland.
But it is the Browns we're talking about. Don't forget.
It is the Browns. Yeah.
And this does play into the next question. So my friend Collins, he asks, if Hunter is there at 3, do you take him or do you move down, and what can you get in the move down? I'll take this one first. So, guys, I'm not fucking around here. I'm taking Hunter. I am not moving down, and in the second round, I am taking a quarterback, whether it's Jackson Dart or it's someone else, like Mike has pointed out. Maybe if Jackson Dart moves up the charts, which I'm thinking he might, maybe it's Milroe. Or maybe I wait till round 3 and I pick the guy from Syracuse, Kyle McCord. In which case, I'm probably signing a vet quarterback to be a bridge.
I think in that case where we're getting a second round quarterback, that comes with taking a bridge quarterback, no matter who it is. The beauty of that plan, man, the reason I like that plan so much is first of all, yes, 100,000% I would take Travis Hunter without even thinking about it. I'd have the pick in the minute the number 2 pick was announced. I would be running up there with the number 3 pick and take it. The reason why it's such a benefit to the Giants to do this plan is because you are not tied to that quarterback you take in the second or third round. You don't have to go down with that ship. You could take another quarterback next year. It just works out so well. Shit. The Sixers just tied the game with 2 seconds left.
I saw that.
Great. Oh, now I gotta go and look at this.
You don't have to go down with that ship. You can absolutely cut bait on that. You can stash him down there for another year, give him more bench time. No one's going to fault you for that. And if you pick early enough again, or you want to trade up and go after Manning, you go after Manning and you trade Dart or whoever it is. I mean, there's a lot of benefits to not taking an iffy quarterback in the first round, which I consider both Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders to be.
I would think about this though, just for 1 second. Let's say it's the Raiders. You're picking 3, and the Raiders call you and say, "You can have our 7 pick and next year's number 1." And you're going to probably be bad again, and the Raiders will be bad with a rookie quarterback. You could have 2 picks in the top 5 next year. I would not take Travis Hunter. I'm sorry. I would load up and stockpile because you are void of talent. My opinion.
I would, but I do think Travis Hunter is one of those guys. He's so versatile.
Yeah.
It's really tough to pass on a guy like that.
It is. This is tough because I like Novak's thinking there as well, but I don't know. Travis Hunter's one of those guys where I don't know. I think I'm not patient enough to even wait till even having 2 picks next year. To get it to pass on a guy that's supposed to be that much that talented. I think his talent does kind of is going to be at a high level in the NFL making that transition. So. I don't know. I think we go. I think if Hunter's there, take him, and then, try to grab. Because I don't know that they're in love with even Cam Ward if he's there. I think get a quarterback later round, get the bridge quarterback. You guys already mentioned that, so I'm kind of thinking along the same lines.
So my friend Mike has, he usually does non-football questions. He's got a few non-football questions, so he's got a couple good ones. So. One that's a football question. Which 2 teams do we want in the Super Bowl and want to win? So not necessarily predictions, but of those left, who do we want? And I'll start with this. I want to see the Bills and the Rams. And I'd take either one of them winning. I'll take the Bills. But I just do not want to see the status quo. I want the Bills or the Rams.
I would actually agree. Those are the 2 teams that I would want to, the Bills and Rams, and I would want the Bills. I want the Bills to win, even though they're in my division. I don't really care because the Jets suck anyways. It doesn't matter. That franchise deserves to win. I love a small market franchise winning a Super Bowl. So go Bills.
I would go. I'm Bills and Lions. I think I want to see Lions have never been there, and Bills. Again, they're certainly deserving fans. So I would love to see Bills, Lions, and give me the Bills. So
Yep, and I'm right on the fence. I coin flip between Lions and Rams for me. I don't care as long as it's one of those 2. As long as it's not the Eagles, and as long as it's not Kansas City, but or the Ravens. I'm not a big fan of the Ravens. So Bills, Lions / Rams for me.
I just can't have the Lions go because at least I have that over them. That the Jets have a Super Bowl. And the Lions are one of the ones that have never been there, so I need these shit teams to not get in. So
who are the ones that have never won a Super Bowl? So you have the Lions, the
Browns.
Seahawks.
That have never won?
Panthers.
No, Seahawks won.
Seahawks won a Super Bowl?
Yeah. They destroyed the Broncos.
Yeah. Oh, they did.
Yeah,
the Chargers never won.
So Lions, Seahawks, Jaguars, or Lions, Chargers, Panthers,
Jags,
Falcons,
Texans.
Browns,
Falcons. Yeah, there's a bunch.
There's a few. Bengals.
That's right. The Bengals have never
Bengals
won.
are 0-3.
True. Yep.
Yeah. There's a Vikings.
Vikings. That's right. Yeah.
Huh. Did we even mention the Bills?
That's true. The Bills have not.
I don't think we did.
Right.
Yeah. There's still a bunch.
Yep.
So my buddy Mike also asks, non-football wise, which one and done TV shows were canceled way too soon for you? So I know Cardone and Mike love TV, so I'm gonna start with you guys first.
A one and done,
like one season.
You know, there was a show.
I will open this because I don't know if mine's a one and done. Just any TV show
short
you
run
think was a short run.
Yeah, well, if I stick to the original question, one and done, there was a show years ago, and I think it was on the same night as Seinfeld, but it wasn't on the same time as Seinfeld. It couldn't have been. I mean, like the same era. But it was a show called Happy Hour, and it had nobody in the show was an actor that I recognized. Like the lead guy on the show was a guy that maybe I'd seen in commercials before, I think. I thought the show was great. I thought this show was fantastic. It got maybe 8 episodes and it was gone. I'm like, where's Happy Hour? I'm looking for it. It's gone. But I'll tell you that the show that was not on anywhere near long enough, and they tried to revive it like on Netflix, but it was never the same, was Arrested Development. If you guys ever watched that show with
great show.
Jason Bateman, and that show was awesome. I couldn't believe that wasn't coming back. I was like, how? Everyone I knew watched it.
I'm kind of struggling on this one, but if I've mentioned this show before, remember of course I mentioned Three's Company in a great finale. So there actually was a spin-off to that. Most people would never even remember that. I'm going way back. So Tripper, right? Jack Tripper was one of my, between him, Sam Malone, and there's a couple other guys, obviously the Seinfeld crew and all that. A couple of my favorite characters. Anything to keep Jack Tripper going on TV. So they did a small spin-off called Three's a Crowd. So Three's Company turned into Three's a Crowd when he eventually was with I'm trying to remember Vicky. I think he ended up, so all the womanizing that he did, he ended up with Vicky. They were supposed to be engaged or married or something like that, and he moves out in with her, and like her father was like a meddling kind of father, that kind of thing. And they only ran for like maybe even, I don't know how many episodes. I don't even know if it made 5 episodes, but to me it was sort of like, I think they even had Roper still on there. So they brought in a couple of those people from the building still, and that was gone after like a few episodes. I'm going way back in time, so I just couldn't think of one off the top of my head. But that was one that anything to keep Jack Tripper going, they gave up on that one way too early.
Well, didn't they actually spin off the Ropers as well? Was there a show called The Ropers?
The Ropers.
That's right. That's right. Roper was
Helen,
spun off.
Helen, that slutty old bag.
Yeah, right. Horny. God, was she a horny bag?
Guys, she's probably our age at the time.
It's true.
By the way, I saw something about that with All in the Family. When Archie Bunker and Edith first started, they were both under 50 years old.
Good Lord.
Did they not look like they were already like
80.
70?
Yeah.
So my show is not a sitcom, and it was so bad that I loved it because it was so funny to watch because it was so terrible. The Magic Hour. Remember when Magic Johnson had a late night show?
Oh my God, the Magic Hour.
It was so bad. Yeah. It was cringy. It was terrible. He was and I loved it because it was just so bad.
The Magic Hour.
I think my show was actually on a few years, but I hated when it was canceled. Do you guys remember a sci-fi show called Sliders? It had Jerry O'Connell in it.
No,
I don't.
They basically would time travel through, and when that got canceled, I really hated it. I loved the fact that it was on, and I'm not a big sci-fi guy. I know Mike is. I'm not a sci-fi guy, and for me that was one of the shows I hated. And I don't think this really fits Mike Harrison's description of a one and done. When it comes to a one and done, I really can't think of one because I don't know.
Hard to remember one and done.
Yeah, because you get invested in a show, if it's gone, it's gone. You don't really think about it. It's not like it's Cop Rock and you're like, hey, all right.
Cop Rock. Oh my God!
By the way, worst show theme ever, Cop Rock, where it's a drama, or not a drama, but a musical about cops dancing. What the fuck is that?
Such a bad idea.
I tell you, I'm thinking of John Ritter now again because I love that guy. Died way too early. I don't know if you remember Kaylee. What's her name? Kaylee Cuoco came from the show.
Yeah,
Cuoco, yeah. So
she was
8
his
simple
daughter.
rules.
Yeah.
8 simple rules for dating my teenage daughter. They shortened it to just 8 simple rules, and the fucking guy died. I think that it was only on for one season, but John Ritter passed away while they were just getting that show going. It might have only been on the air for like one season, but it was. I gave it a look, and it wasn't bad. It was pretty, just family stuff. A couple teenage daughters, that kind of stuff. And he was the concerned dad, and all. He was still funny, right? One of the funniest actors in my mind. And the guy passed away, so they just obviously, the show just went off the air.
Yeah, that's sad. That was
yeah.
It was hard. Really basically exploded too.
Something like that. Yeah.
Quantum Leap was a show that I liked that was around a few seasons, but I could have, if that show were still on today, I'd still be watching. I love that show.
Scott Bakula.
Yeah, the Scott Bakula vehicle.
So the other question Mike asked, well, he's got two others, but this one, what weapon would you want to try out if you had a chance to try out a weapon?
Oh, that's easy.
Oh, go ahead.
A bow and arrow. How badass is that?
Shit, that's what I was thinking, man.
Right?
That's actually what I was thinking.
Right. Well, I mean, if you were like good at that, and, just knocking stuff out, that'd be great.
See, for me, I'm going for the bazooka. I want something on my shoulder I could just like load up and, like that's what I'm going for. The bazooka.
This is again probably I don't want to offend anybody in the Los Angeles area listeners, but a fucking flamethrower. Like just to have like a high-powered fucking like something like Sigourney Weaver had in Aliens when she fucking remember that whatever that weapon she had, she fucking just remember the flame that shoots out of that thing, like something like that would be cool.
Yeah, what would be a badass weapon to be good with would be nunchucks, right? That would be awesome. Just like come up like a ninja. I remember, man, when I was a kid, I was obsessed with those Chinese throwing stars.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Those things were awesome.
Yeah. I'm surprised you didn't go lightsaber, Mike.
Yeah, well, if it was a real thing, I feel stupid for not saying that now. Thanks, Novak. That's totally what I should have said.
To really go underground here in independent films and stuff, there was a movie like in early 80s called Student Bodies. It was a parody on horror films. Go check it out. It's like if this would call a paperclip was a weapon in that film. So
a paperclip.
Yes. So you have to see the movie to know what I'm talking about. It's a really bad movie, but it's hilarious. It's called Student Bodies. It's from like 1981, 1982, something like that. It's a parody. It makes fun of those slasher movies. It's actually quite funny.
I got to see that.
Yeah.
So the last question of the night, and it's one of those where I hope we don't ever run up into this because it's about our final meal. What would be our entree and dessert for our final meal, especially if we're going to execution? So I'm planning not to go to execution, but I'll ask Novak, what's your final meal?
Jeez, you got to get me first.
Buffalo wings.
Yeah, yes, I think that's what it would be. I mean, sadly, I think it would be a shit ton of wings. The wings, not the legs or whatever.
Flat the drummies.
The drums. Yeah, no, I don't like the drums. I like the wings part.
You don't like the drums?
The two boners.
Yeah.
I like the drums. No one likes drums.
I love drums. I love the drums.
But yeah, as soon as you asked that question, Scott, my mind immediately went to just a big platter of buffalo wings, as many as I could eat. Just stuff my face.
Yep.
Good call. I'm going spaghetti and meatballs.
Yeah.
And for dessert, I love red velvet cake. Give me spaghetti and meatballs with a red velvet cake chaser.
So you would have been good on that Netflix thing. Mike would have just downed that thing, and Mahomes turned it down.
I'm sorry.
The red velvet, with the ball
in the shape of a football.
I would have turned that down.
I'm thinking a big plate of veal parmesan with spaghetti, and then as my dessert, I'm going like tiramisu.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Yeah.
I like creme brulee, so that's my dessert.
You guys got anything else tonight?
Nope. Ready for super divisional round weekend. We're ready.
Yeah. Ready to go. I had a question for you guys. This is good for the podcast. We didn't really talk any Giants or Jets or anything tonight. And Novak, maybe this is a question for you. So all these teams that are good, they have the locker room leader, right? Who is the Giants locker room leader for this past year?
I think that's part of the problem. We don't have one.
So, yeah,
I don't think Dexter is. I just don't think we have one.
Thibodeau?
Yeah.
He's a bum.
Yeah, I don't know who it is. Someone asked me that question this week, and I think it's really bad if you have to think about the answer. It's super bad if you just can't come up with if there's just nobody.
It's not.
But
Cutlets?
I caution this, Mike. The Jets locker room leader could be the Dick, and what does that get them?
No.
Does he become
it's got to be a good leader. Yeah.
It's Quincy Williams. Quincy Williams is the Jets locker room leader, not Quinn and Quincy.
Just say if there's someone that's a leader that's a dick and he sucks, it's not as good as having anyone.
True.
Yeah.
So we'll be back next week to talk about the divisional games. By the way, I love being back in the saddle.
Glad to have you back, Scott. Trust me.
I'm glad to be back in the country. And guys, send in questions. Peacock, let's get back to Peacock Corner. I'll call it Peacock Corner if you want me to.
Yes.
But we're going to be here till the end of the Super Bowl, and then after that, we'll take a hiatus until some of the off-season things. But until then, we're here. So, guys, love the participation. It's been great all year, and we're going to continue. So, any last parting comments?
A hard-earned hiatus, by the way. This has been rough.
Yeah.
Oh, I do have one last comment. I just remembered. There was an announcement today that the New York Giants will not be raising ticket prices for season ticket holders in 2025.
Hey!
What a fucking bone to throw.
Are they lowering them?
Yeah. They have 3 and 14 have to make the announcement as hey, calm down, everyone. We're not raising ticket prices on you. You have to.
Will they get a medium Coke with that?
Yeah.
Well, they were going for $1 at the end of the year, so.
Yeah. Not raising ticket prices. Thanks, Mr. Mara.
Yeah, good one. Get our free Coke, Pepsi.
Medium, not even a large, to give you a medium.
Knicks are going to win, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to say for Peacock, Peacock is a Sixers fan. So if he's listening to this, we're going off the air right as the Knicks win.
Peacock.
So that's what happens when you don't send in questions, Peacock.
That's right.
Yeah.
Suck it.
That's right. All right.
All right, boys.
All right, guys.